Welcome, everybody, to the show. The light is not on. I want to turn the light on because I look less pasty with it on. So I'd like to welcome everybody to Counterclipping show number 247 for November 24th, 2025. Happy Thanksgiving for those who celebrate this week. We are celebrating by drinking. Where did I put the bottle? Well, it's Highland Park Viking Honor. It's on the shelf behind me. There you go. So thanks everybody for coming out this evening. We have a huge GMT update to go through, so that we're going to probably get that pretty early. Before we get started on any of that, I will thank everyone and remind them to please thumbs up the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Big shout outs to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair who are keeping this boat afloat at this time, as well as to our good friends at Noble Knight Games, which we will hear about again very soon. I'm actually going to check something because I think today is the last day of the Noble Knight holiday sale. So take advantage of that if there's anything on sale that you want. There's a lot on sale. So it's still up as of this very moment. So, and there is, of course, an affiliate link as well as a bunch of other ways to support the channel in the video description. So check all that stuff out. I've been trying to work on the framing in OBS, and it seems to be a little flaky. So on the new system. So that's why we've got this extra wide shot. The framing in OBS works fine. It's just hogging the... I actually think I just figured it out. So John C. from the sunny Philippines, thanks so much for the support. And of course, we do have Turkey Day coming this week. So if I didn't say already, happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate. I am thoroughly sick of turkey by the end of the Thanksgiving weekend, between the 2 to 3 Thanksgivings that we go to and then the inevitable leftovers. So I'm not the world's biggest fan. This year, well, we'll see what's happening. So in any case, I got a bit of personal news, not like substantive personal news, but we'll get to that. And then we'll get to, that's weird. Something was in my throat there. What's the big white box on the shelf? Those are actually Pathfinder pawns because they fit there at this moment. And the boxes are not labeled. That's all those are. They are, however, GMT 3-inch white boxes. So in which all of the Pathfinder pawns are stored. The rest of, where did I put the rest of them? The rest of them are on the shelf down here. They are horrific to store. At some point, I'll probably go through them and throw those out that I know I'll never need. This isn't really happening to me, and I am most definitely on the mailing list, so I'm not even sure. So, all right. So, I talked a couple of weeks ago, I don't know, maybe this was last week, about abandoning Windows and moving to Linux. So I kind of thought about that for a couple of weeks, and got tired of deliberating. So I just said, screw it. I'm going to install Linux Mint because I know it. It is, I've used it before. It's been a long time, but I've used it before. It is very easygoing on Windows migratees. So I went with it, and you know what? It was mostly working fine. There was a couple oddball things like the framing and like the virtual camera in OCS that wasn't quite working as expected. There were a couple other things that I did some troubleshooting on and managed. Thank you, Danny Seckery, for reminding me to turn on the ticker. There we go. Thank you. My email address is in there if anybody wants to reach out to me. Nevertheless, while up and running on Linux Mint, I continued digging and felt that a different distribution would, in fact, be better for me. And I still think that's true as of today. However, on installing that other distribution, I managed to install it over top of my data drive. Now, very little that was in that data drive was not caught in the last backup, which had been relatively recently, but it was just a big inconvenience because there's a bunch of stuff that I had to rebuild. We'll throw a link to the Discord server into the chat momentarily here. But it was just a hassle more than anything else, right? All right, so our good friend Stacking Limit will not be joining us this evening. So I will be on the lookout for misbehavior in the chat, which we almost never have. So it's really not much of a problem. All right, Dan's got... we don't want to talk about Dan's cockles because they might get demonetized. So I don't know what happened. I will remind everybody, John C. remembers, obviously, but super chats and super stickers are on. It is a good way to support the channel as well as to get your comment highlighted if you want me to address it. Otherwise, I might miss stuff because it happens, and there's typically there's over 100 people in here now already. So anyway, installed Nobara Linux, did it over the on the wrong SSD. I have two mostly identical SSDs. That's how that occurred. I practiced fairly good data hygiene, so things were backed up and things were tidy, and but there were some things that I had to fiddle with, like one of the things that was on that data drive was my repository of fonts, so that's some of which I've had for eons. I'm pretty sure all those are recoverable too, and I've downloaded all the essential ones, but like I couldn't make thumbnails, for example, for a couple of days because I didn't have the right fonts. So in any case, it's all working right now. I will say that Nobara Linux is a distribution aimed at video gaming specifically. And everything I have tried to install and run on Nobara so far has run with precisely 0 issues. That list is not enormous. It includes the Elder Scrolls Online, Crusader Kings 2, Hearts of Iron 4, Victoria 3, and Minecraft, and Skyrim. So I haven't actually fired up Skyrim yet, though. So the other 4 or 5, whatever it is, work fine. So there's that. There's a bunch of extra compatibility well, I don't want to say it this way, but there are some extra compatibility tweaks on this version of Linux. And if you have NVIDIA graphics hardware, then that can be a little hard to support on many other distributions. So in any event, everything is working fine now. I think that although that did cost 2 or 3 days last week of otherwise time that could have been used productively and was not, I think that we are good to go again and ready to resume work on all of our various projects. So, so in any case, I don't store. I've got 4. So this machine has at the moment, one 12 terabyte mechanical hard drive and 2 terabyte SSDs. So it's pretty good. And I forget what the graphics card is, to be completely honest, because I haven't paid any attention to graphics cards for a long time. Since I'm not like playing, I got to play the latest state-of-the-art game. Nah, whatever. I'll buy the latest state-of-the-art thing that's on sale for $5 or less. That's me. And the Paradox stuff in particular tends to be on sale extremely regularly. There is a website called isthereanydeal.com that you can kind of set up for video games that you want, pick your stores that you want to monitor, and it'll send you an email when that goes on sale, whatever the threshold that you set on that game is. It's actually a useful feature. And is how I bought Crusader Kings 3, not directly through Steam, but it was redeemable on Steam. But you do, if you want to redeem it on Steam, make sure that when you buy it from some other random site that you can, because that's happened too. In any case, that's pretty good. All right, we are clipping, by the way, Kingdom of Heaven again. So, oof, that's a lot. I don't have anything like that much. Then again, I did a lot of, building my own models rather than downloading a ton of stuff. But I also downloaded and printed a variety of like stock models for different things. In any case, let's talk about the GMT update here, which is on the wrong page, but we can fix that. All right, here's the GMT update. As usual, folks, there's actually going to be a lot to go through here, but I am not, as usual, going to read every word. If you would like to read every word, please go to gmtgames.com and read it there. I will hit the highlights. Blue Ronin thinks the next big Steam sale is around 12/18. That's actually pretty typical for them. And that'll be a pretty big one of their 2 or however many it is big sales of the year. So that's worth looking at. And I do like the Paradox games, and I may even give Hearts of Iron 4 another crack, to be completely honest. All right, so Gene opens us up with wishing us well and talking about Thanksgiving and talking about how great it was to see a variety of people at SD HistCon, which I missed. So sorry, guys, I wasn't there. We have no new box. There's new P500s, but there's an expansion and a couple of reprints. There's no new game on P500 that's been added this month. So they have 2. We'll talk about all this downstairs here. They have 48 individual game updates for you this month. So I can read pretty fast. I'm going to read them real fast when we get, and they're at the end. So, oh, sweet. David Imperato received his copy of China's War. I think the only thing out of the current batch of shipments from GMT that I have coming is the Battle for Normandy replacement counters. Very much looking forward to getting those, because if I have them, I probably will clip that pretty soon, because I will 100% play that thing. All right, so newsletter emails get cut off by their email client. I have been noticing this forever, but I always go through to see it on the web page anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Free solo apps for several coin games. Created by Prabha Pillai that you can download, and presumably they are linked on BGG. So there's one for China's War, one for Fire in the Lake, one for Gandhi, and one for Red Dust Rebellion. So if you're playing any of those games, maybe you want to check those out. I do not know that. That is not an endorsement. And apparently you can download the apps from Apple or Android too, which is the way I think everybody wants to install that stuff. Welcome, Candace Harris, to the GMT marketing team. I happen to have met Candace, not Kansas, sorry. She was delightful. She was one of the people playing Microverse with us at SD HistCon last year. So congratulations to Candace, and congratulations to GMT on what sounds like a pretty good move. All right, operations update, tariffs, and shipping. They're getting a little stronger. Hopefully this will continue. They're executing their operational plans, and the customers are telling them that they really like the games. I mean, we are buying them, so things are looking good overall, but they still have challenges. Tariffs. Tariff rate was reduced from 30 to 20%. That might not sound like a lot, but over a year of 30 or so game releases, that is up to 100K that GMT and the customers don't have to pay for. So that's good news. Cool. The combination of larger print runs and directly subsidizing the tariff amounts from GMT funds, they've been able to keep all tariff surcharges on games well under $5 a game, which is the goal. And they will be able to further reduce it with the tariff decrease. But I mean, the fact is, we don't know if it's going to go up again instantaneously. So good, but we will continue to monitor this situation. Excellent. Andrew Cook picked up a copy of Hungarian Rhapsody. I really like Hungarian Rhapsody. I played it. I've only played it once, but we had a good time with it. All right. This is correct. Cura was what I used too. All right. International shipping transformation. They're doing better shipping. Boy, they're using the business lingo this time. They're doing better with shipping to Europe, but not as well as they'd like with Asia. So they are, I'm sure, going to continue looking at these issues. They have managed the first 2 of the 3 objectives. International customers are not paying the tariff cost, and the shipping prices have decreased over what they were in before August, so that's good. But getting games to customers more quickly remains elusive. They have very little control over the timing of delivery from the printer to their 7 familiar fulfillment partners through customs, and also over the time it takes those partners to send the games out. But what they can do is track orders through the fulfillment partners website. So these are their fulfillment partners. Board Game Bliss in Canada, Second Chance Games, no surprise there, in the UK, Udo Grebe Games, Europe North, Mosqueoka, I thought that was spelled differently, but maybe I'm remembering wrong, for Spain, Portugal, France, and Italy, Chrononauts in Japan, VR distribution in Australia, New Zealand, and VFI Asia for Asia Pacific other than Australia, New Zealand, and Japan. So Chrononauts is actually a game from Looney Labs, maybe a time travel card game that I actually still have, and is actually a pretty cool game. So, all right, yes, this is quite right. As Joe points out, the reason Compass seems to not be noticing the tariff problems, and Bill talked about this on their live show, is because they have like a year worth of games at the moment to release, and they just said, oh, let's hold off on sending anything else for a while until things settle down, which they hopefully they have settled down at this point. All right, so I actually shared this. This is actually pretty neat, so we'll take a look at it. This is Navy Times, folks. And it is an article about Nick Karp's classic Vietnam 65 to 75 from Victory Games. And it, talks about this. Sounds like they talked to Nick, whom I have also met at this point. Actually, I'm happy to say I met him at ESCON last year. So not a super in-depth article, but it's kind of cool to see. And GMT mentions it in their newsletter. Did I put... all right, hold on one second here. I need to provide a link to the Ardwulf Lair Discord community. So here it is, folks. I'm dropping it in the chat right now. All right. Jonathan Dyer says VR distribution seems to get the games out in about 2 months after the date of charging, which isn't that bad. That actually doesn't sound particularly bad to me. I mean, I've waited that long from GMT to ship from California to Ohio. So I'm gently poking fun rather than genuinely complaining here, bear in mind. In general, as long as shipments aren't getting lost and they will make their way here eventually, I'll be fine. So... all right, so GMT website recent edition section. This is where this came from, so we don't have to worry about that. So GMT Talk had Justin Facino, the designer of Seljuk Byzantium Besieged, which is just released from GMT, and for which you will hopefully see a designer-assisted unboxing tomorrow. But I still have some editing to do. So, and Carl Fung is here. Carl, thanks for stopping by. All right. And there's a whole bunch of other episodes where they talk to a variety of different people. Not there yet. We're really not going through all of this. But I will observe that Barbarossa Typhoon 2nd Edition unsurprisingly made its cut. And Next to our Flashpoints made its cut as well. And I should really pick that one up too. I'm definitely on board for Typhoon. All right, back in the box sneak peek. Infernal Machine, Dawn of Submarine Warfare. Now, we did have Jerry and Ed, who are the co-designers of this, on the Chit Show a couple of weeks ago, so check that out. We had a very good discussion with those folks. I don't know if it's planning for a rainy day or just, a nearly supernatural degree of foresight on Bill's part. But, I mean, I believe this to be their standard practice. I don't think that was something they did just for this. All right. So anyway, this game looks pretty neat. It's about the dawn of submarine warfare in the U.S. Civil War. Here's a banner for China's War from Brian Train. Here's a bunch of Vassal module updates, including the Vassal modules for Next War Taiwan, Great Battles of Alexander Expanded Deluxe, Death Valley, a couple different battle packets for those, and Panzer North Africa. There's some more stuff about Vassal here that we're just going to blow through. A whole bunch of designer interviews, including interviews, a couple with Justin because his game's just coming out. Here's Kai talking about Dominant Species Marine. Herman, our good friend, talking to Mesa de Guerra about A Hell So Terrible. Volko, I saw, is making the rounds again. He talked to Legendary Tactics, and Gene Billingsley talked to Legendary Tactics as well. And Fred Serval of Homo Ludens spoke with Stephen Rangazza, co-designer of Combat Commander Vietnam. And, of course, the Dragoons did the podcast interview with James Day. So check all of those things out. Let us... All right, so digital game updates. So Mr. President is kind of the one that I'm paying the most attention to at this point. And they are saying that they're aiming for system completion of early access launch in the new year. So it sounds like in the new year, it's not going to be 100% airtight yet. But I'm pretty much good for this game, so I'm very interested in seeing the digital implementation of Mr. President. And there's a whole bunch of screenshots and additional details for that. The digital version of Space Corp has been released for Steam and App Store. I'm not sure which App Store, but whichever one it is, you can take a look if you want. And it's in the Steam Winter Sale, or will be when the Steam Winter Sale begins, which we just mentioned, for 40 to 50% off. So that's cool. Digital Saratoga update. That is on track for a release date of December 3rd, which is also not far away at this point. So that's pretty cool. Rebel Fury is, of course, out. It's been out for a while. Pick that up if you haven't yet. It's worth your time. In either the digital or the analog version, but it's a really remarkably clever design, in my opinion. So, all right. So, a new P500 editions. We have a reprint of Plantagenet and Triumph and Tragedy, and the lone new item this month is Conquest and Tragedy, which is a kit to combine Triumph and Tragedy and Conquest and Consequences. I mean, you can kind of do it anyway, but you're kind of just playing two separate games alongside one another. So if you're a fan of these games, especially for $26, it's going to have a 16-page rule book, a marker sheet, and 6-player aid cards. So not a huge pile of components. These are solid games, Triumph and Tragedy and Conquest and Consequences. I've played them both. I think it would be pretty cool to put them together, but I actually don't own either of them. I really should pick up Triumph. I should pick them up, but it's just one of those things. So we will see when we are able to do that. But I think this is a idea has a ton of potential playing these two games together. So very curious to see that. All right. Recent P500 edition editions. We're not going to bother looking at any of that. Check that out if you want. We have the expansion item. We've just talked about this. So this will allow for 3 to 6 players. So you can control one or both factions of a partnership. So the communist factions are the USSR and the Soviets, which is a little awkward, but if they had to split it that way for component reasons, that sort of makes sense. You have the Axis in Europe and Japan and Asia. Capitalist factions are Britain and France, plus the Asian Pacific British Empire and the USA, which has a seaboard in each theater. That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay. I'm just wondering how this looks like for a player split. So this would be a big convention game. I think it takes 5 hours or so to play Triumph and Tragedy usually. At least it did for me. So, all right. So in any case, check that out if you want. New P500 hints on the horizon. A new game using the Here I Stand system. I mean, I don't think we should be surprised that that's happening. A new book from one of their designers. No idea who that is. An expansion for one of their best-selling games the past few years. That could be anything. One of the smartest wargames designs I've seen, presumably that's Gene, since Jeremy White showed me Atlantic Chase from a new to GMT designer. Very curious to see what that looks like at the end as well. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel, folks, if you haven't done so already. And if you want us to help support the channel, there's a bunch of links to do so in the video description. So yearly bestsellers, I'm not going to look at that either. Here are some events. The Here I Stand Cup, which is in... it's not in Ohio, I can tell you that. This is online, actually, which is even better because anybody can do it. You don't have to pay any attention to the physical components. The 2026 Cascade Games Convention, which is, I'm looking for a location here. Bellingham, Washington, 90 miles north of Seattle, 20 minutes from the Canadian border. Okay. Oh, Brant. Don't make me put you in timeout. Anyway, well, I mean, at the one point, when we were playing, and I think I've played it Triumph and Tragedy like 3 times. One time was the first time that all 3 of us had played it. So here's Bellum Omnium, which is at the a hotel in Torre del Mar, Malaga, Spain. It feels like Spain has a lot of conventions. I like Triumph and Tragedy. I should pick it up. It's just one of those things that I have just never managed to pick up. In fairness to me, it sells out fairly quickly every time they reprint it. I believe this next reprint is going to be the 4th printing. I should just P500 it and save myself the grief. GMT weekend at the warehouse. The next one will be in April. That's going to be down in Hanford, California, where GMT's at. Here is a game of Celtic between designers and content creators at SD HistCon. That's worth a look. This is presumably going to Justin's channel. Legendary Tactics has had a series on the games that built GMT. I am woefully behind on these personally. So Joe says that the Malaga convention is new. I hadn't heard of it before, but that doesn't mean anything. All right. Playmat update from Break from Reality. Eric, and I'm not sure I've heard about this at all. It's probably because I don't tend to read these things. So they have playmats, 25 of each mat below to test the market. What are these playmats? Are they like just the neoprene mats? Plum Island Horror, Downfall, Space Empires, Imperial Struggle, Fire in the Lake, Dominant Species, Paths of Glory, Wolfpack, CNC Ancients, and Napoleonics. That doesn't seem like it makes any sense. Cross Bronx Expressway, Sekigahara, and 1846. Okay. So interesting if that's happening. There's a Hubris Learn to Play PDF that you can click on here. There's a free campaign system for Tank Duel that we mentioned last month. PBEM Vassal Tournaments. Oh, sweet. Kai's going to add, again, expanding the line of blankets that I keep not ordering. And to include some covers, in this case from Plum Island Horror, Just of Robin Hood, Red Dust Rebellion, and the very nice cover of the Combat Commander 20th Anniversary Edition. Right, so Wolfpack optional rules for free download. The East Front Series Vassal module has been updated to include the new Army Group North, which is awesome. Here's a bunch of 3D printing files from Nerd Workshop. These are totally worth your time. He knows what he's doing. He's better at it than me, that's for sure, since his printer is working. All right, some more tournaments, some playthrough content. So what a fabulous camera angle they got for Volko here, let me tell you. All right, inside GMT updates on their various games. All right, current charges and shipments. They charged both the U.S. and international customers on October 30th for the following things. Italy 43, the mounted map and 2-inch box for Italy 43. Next were Taiwan 2nd edition, Seljuk Byzantium Besieged, Stalingrad 42, 2nd edition, the Battle for Normandy errata counters, unconditional surrender Western campaigns. And the next batches of charging and shipments will be on December 3rd, at least as things stand today. P500 pricing will be good through December 7th. And that charge will include the Cuba Libre Calixto box update pack, the Plum Island Horror 3rd printing, and the Plum Island Horror More of a Bad Thing expansion, which I'm sure is going to sell very briskly. So, well, maybe I have to look at this, to be completely honest. All right, so U.S. tariff surcharges, we've seen that already. We'll look at that when we hit the bottom here. All right, so production outlook. Here is Kai's section. All right, so they have 8 games that they're hoping to get out in December, or by the end of the year is pretty much December at this point. And of course, the holidays and shipping delays and all that, people should be aware of that stuff. At sea are the 3 things that we just mentioned: the Calixto bot for Cuba Libre and the 2 Plum Island Horror items. At the printer, no ship date yet. Includes the 2025 errata and replacement counters, a distant plane 4th printing, Ardennes 44 4th edition, mounted maps and update kit for that. Commands and colors, Napoleonics, the Grand Battles at long last. I feel like we've waited a grand old time for that at this point. Infernal Machine, the 2nd printing of the Men of Iron Tri-Pack, the 2nd edition of Mr. President, the update kit for that. Purgatorio, the new Men of Iron game, Silent Victory 3rd printing, the Hunter's 4th printing, and the Guerrilla Generation, which is the latest coin multi-pack. We'll call them quads at this point. All right, so Going to the printer in late November, which I'd say we are already in, is Baltic Empire's Cuius Regio, Thunderbolt, and Thunderbolt Deluxe. I am on the hook for 2 of these, Thunderbolt Deluxe and Cuius Regio. Very excited about both of those products. In final art and proof, I haven't ordered Baltic Empires. I will say that the box looks really nice. So I am somewhat sympathizing with this, but we actually have an update on Three Dog Deluxe here too, I think. So, so in final art and proofing in December, so we think these will go to the printer in December. Army of the Potomac, latest from Mark Herman, Bear Trap, Coast Watchers, Combat Commander, Battle Pack number 9, Island Hopping, a 5th printing of Empire of the Sun, it deserves it, Next War Supplement 4, and Weimar Republic, and 3 Days of Gettysburg Deluxe. So to me, this says that we will be seeing the new Three Dog probably in Q2 would be my best guess at this point. But it could be Q1. That's not necessarily inconceivable. All right, going to the printer in January, we hope, is 1833 NE. That's a rail game, decisive action. Defiance, Battle of Cowpens for battles of the American Revolution. Second printing of the British Way, which does look pretty good. The British Way, Enemy of My Enemy, which is an expansion for the British Way. The Thunderverse track back for Thunder Road or Thunder Alley. And Time of Crisis, the deluxe edition, plus an update kit for that. From thenceforth, I'm only going to call out specific things. I will note that we are still expecting to see Barbarossa Army Group South 2nd edition go to the printer in Q1. More on that in a bit. And Tank Duel 2nd printing has moved up as well. Do we have anything else new here? Yes, actually. Now, moving into 3rd quarter 2026 is Red Storm, the 2nd printing, and Red Storm Southern Flank. I should probably buy the 2nd printing since I have the vaguest idea what the hell happened to my 1st printing. I don't remember getting rid of it, but I can't find it, so I don't think it's here anymore. Anyway, many content creators of quality are listed here, so make sure you check all of those things out. Let me zoom out a bit to do the cover art showing off. Here's the cover of the British Way, Enemy of My Enemy. Here is some stuff for the Weimar Republic. This looks nice. Here's 1833 NE, Railroading in New England. I've said this before. I've had fun with these 18XX games on the very rare occasions on which I have played them. I have an 18XX game. It is one of GMT's at the moment, and the next 18XX game I play, presumably in around 2045, will be that one. So that is my goal anyway. All right, so here's the map on this. Here's the box cover for Defiance. This is, I think, the first I've seen of this, unless it was there last month, which is not impossible. But I think this looks pretty sharp. This is, of course, David Doctor and Mark Herman collaboration. This looks like it's going to be a pretty interesting game. So, and it is Volume 1, Miracle on the Dnieper. So that sounds promising. Here is the cover of the Guerrilla Generation. I think this looks nice too. Here is the cover of Infernal Machine. This looks nice too. Here is Next War Series Supplement number 4. These come in Ziplocs, if anybody is confused about that. So this has a bunch of new stuff for Next War, and I should really probably get off my butt and order Next War Iran as well, which is the one that I don't have. All right, here's the counter sheet for that. So there's counters from all over the place. Card samples of the Turn Zero cards for the 20th anniversary edition of Twilight Struggle. These look nice. Here's the maps from the Guerrilla Generation. We can see Central America here. Do we have 2 Nicaragua maps? It's probably graphic snafu. El Salvador and Uruguay. Anyway. Mike, thanks for stopping by. Things are on schedule for Tank Duel 2nd printing and Tank Pack 2. So awesome. And I think Away Team is going to be a banger of a game anyway. Here is a sample counter sheet for Thunderbolt Deluxe. These are fine. I don't care. They could be handwritten for all I care. Here is the new rule book. This looks fabulous. I'm super excited about this. I've been waiting for so long. Here's some sample science fiction stuff from Microverse, so check that out if you want. Here's Tank Duel Pack number 2, the Eastern Front's a couple cards from that. So here are the designer developer updates. So 1830, I'm going to go through all these. So if anybody wants extra information, go look at the GMT website. All right, 1833 NE is in the final leg. They are in the proofreading and polishing stages. 1848, the Springtime of Nations, has turned in the final art assets and are ready to move to layout. 18 EUS, wrapping up work on that. Testing was finished long ago. Some work remains on the rules. Okay. Fading Star, Insurgency and Piracy in Somalia, a topic close to GMT's heart. This looks pretty interesting. Has said that we are making good progress with the non-player design for his own 2 games, The Pure Land and Resisting Revolution, after which he will dedicate some time to working with the solo system for a Fading Star, and that's the thing that they're waiting on. Okay. So Mitch Land is here. Mitch, thanks for stopping by. All right. Well, Mitch, I mean, you are right to be biased, but that doesn't change the fact that I still need to get it. A Hell So Terrible for Done 1916 from Herman Luttman. This is probably going to be outstanding. There's some articles on this. House Divided Designer Editions developer Carl Creator has been taking it out to conventions. I can confirm that this has in fact occurred and has been occurring for some time. So they should have new map and counter samples to show everyone soonish. And I think the current notion is that's going to be out in 2026 at some point. All right. Ark the Underworld from James Day. This is part of the science fiction for that. Here's Army of the Potomac is complete with the proofreading team who should finish with the game before Thanksgiving. So this week. Most of the time in the last 2 months was spent polishing, rechecking, and clarifying the campaign rules as the core series rules remain unchanged from Rebel Fury, more or less. We'll go to the printer before the end of the year and be in our hands early to mid 2026. It's standing. Away Team is nearing the close of its current playtesting round. Things look good, and they're pushing to complete all the game's artwork, which I would imagine there is an enormous quantity of. And they're working on proofreading rules and components. There's a training mission for first-time players that they're working on. And John himself is working on variable content specific to the Voyage game, the replayable version of Away Team. So here's some more pictures of that. I think those of us who are highly interested in Away Team, just not based on John's bona fides, I think are going to end up being pretty happy with that. So here is Baltic Empires. This is the very sharp cover that I'm not going to click on because it's going to take me to the wrong page. Here's the map for Baltic Empires, which I do think has a nice period look. Barbarossa Army Group South, 2nd edition. They are on track to finish up development by January and get it to the GMT team for printing before the end of Q1. I will point out that this particular development team has said things like that in the past and been correct. So they do have appear to have a pretty good project management scheme going on over there. So that is fabulous. That probably means that we see it sometime around the end of next year. Which, considering that we saw Army Group North not that long ago, I think is pretty good. Once AGS is complete, they will immediately begin development of Typhoon 2nd edition, and they hope to get that to players without too much of a wait. Why they want to hear? I can't complain about that pace, to be honest about it. All right, Bear Trap. Materials are with Mark Rodrigue for layout. Final round of proofreading ahead. Battle Pack number 9 for Combat Commander. Scenario pages and maps have been laid out. Artist Oliver Stewart is touching up rough drafts and creating new terrain types. Mark Yoshikawa and Kai are meeting in early December to go over the package and fill any remaining gaps. So outstanding. Co-designer Stephen Rangazas with, of course, the late Chad Jensen. Public wave of play testing for this has commenced, and I think there is somebody's done a YouTube video on it already. This looks, as a somebody who wasn't didn't enjoy Combat Commander all that much, to be honest about it, I would 100% try this. I think the system might work very well for Vietnam. Better, in fact, than it worked for me, at least in World War II. All right, Decisive Action by Joe Chacon and developer Evan Yoke. Art is chugging along. They have an additional artist on board, David Prieto Gomez, who will be creating event and asset cards. So cool, new asset. The other artist ran into some health issues and lets everyone wish him a speedy recovery. So here's Defiance. Can I click on this? Yeah, see, that's all it does. So here's a playtest of Defiance, and this sounds, like I said, very interesting. So this is worth keeping an eye on for the serious aficionado of Hexacounter war games, in my opinion. Echo from the Dark by designer Adam Blinkensop. This was on tables at SD HistCon, which is great. This seems like it's got a little bit of ways to go to me. All right, here's a Pipoli. Has entered fine-tuning and balancing, and they're excited about how the different victory paths are shaping up for both players. Expansion or Extinction, which is the sci-fi Triumph and Tragedy, which I should buy this. Marco Poutre is now the developer of this. Okay, I didn't know that. He just took over development, and has all the latest files, and he's ready to dive in. So that is interesting. So hopefully we'll be seeing more news on this soon. Fields of Fire 3, the Parachute Regiment. Looks like it is in art. They provided a substantial discount. So Fighting Formations, Grossdeutschland Divisions, Battle for Kursk. Game design by Brian R. Van Nortwick. Pre-orders are climbing. They have gotten a start on art for this so this is an expansion. Okay, 2 of the 10 new maps have been created, and the scenarios and counters will start taking shape in the new year. Okay. Firefight Tactical from Sam London, essentially done with artwork. Terry will finalize the counters. And the last outstanding pieces are graphic design for scenarios and the bot cards. Okay, so that's got some art and stuff happening. Alex Knight's Hammer and Sickle. This is probably going to be interesting as well. So they're talking about components that will improve the final game. The board is going to be slightly larger, and they'll use illustrated counters for the units, which will be more evocative and allow for easy snacking in crowded map areas. So maybe they had blocks before. They're going to be using wooden components for hammers and sickles, which, of course you would. All right, so they've got some art to do on this yet. I Napoleon second printing and the Limits of Glory is nearing the close of a second round of testing for I Napoleon. The expansion looked very promising. A couple of key game mechanics have come into better focus since the first test. All right, so there's a good chance this game could enter the list of games waiting for artwork next month, so that would be cool. Iron Storm by Edgar Fennelar, making final adjustments while they wait for an artist to be assigned. Otherwise, the game is now complete. Okay, Labyrinth, The Rise of Al-Qaeda, Peter Evans and developer Marco Poutre. Interesting. All right, lots going on this, wording on the cards, so they're still fine-tuning this. This is a much more detailed update than what you just get from reading the list upstairs. All right, Microverse. This is, I think, going to be a big hit for GMT in my guess. Moving ahead at full steam, the majority of the species artwork is completed. They'll begin the sector tile art. Still working on the bot, which is coming very well, and he's doing small write-ups on the various species. All right, so that is continuing to come along. Punicus. This is this block war game on the what looks like the second Punic War, I would think. Okay, so it steadily gaining orders, but could do with a bit of a boost. So there'll be an interview with Grant and Alexander at the Players Aid. They didn't reach out to me, and they're planning a series of articles for Inside GMT. So good for them. Here's the Recon series from Volco, Allied Field Intelligence. We've already seen the cover, which is, I think, a very nice cover. Art is ever so close to done. Okay, so that's in art too. A lot of this boils down to it's somewhere in the art process. Draken, Reconnaissance at Verdun, which is Recon Volume 2. This is probably going to be another one that Volko is going to impress everybody with. So this is presumably less far along. Resisting Revolution, designer Joe Dewhurst. His work on the Pure Land non-player system wrapping up. Now about to work on the non-player system for Resisting Revolution. Okay. So that may take several months. Seljuk, we don't need to talk about this particularly because it's out now. If you haven't gotten it yet and you ordered it, you'll be getting it soon. So here's Justin on here. Justin Fassion. I didn't know that's how that's spelled, but Justin Fassion, a designer. Remember to call him Mr. Fassion when you next see him, folks. But anyway, here's a photo from SD HistCon. I see Volko there and Candace and some other people. So all right, Tank Tool Pack 2. Development weekend at the warehouse in October. Okay, this is Chris Huntington. Here's Cowpen's developer Rob McCracken. They're making steady progress, nearing the proofing stage. British Way, Enemy of My Enemy. They sent the final booklet out for layout, so that's going to be pretty close too. Guerrilla Generation has been sent to the printer. The Pure Land final round of solo bot testing. Oh, that is Justin right there. That's Justin. So thank you, John C., for mentioning that. Where was I here? All right. So solo system for the Pure Land, that's in the works. Weimar Republic is in the final stage of proofing, and they'll be sending the project to the printer soon. All right. The World Crisis. So this is the World War I World at War family game. I'm not exactly sure how to describe this until I learn more about it, and there might be some more to learn about it on the page right now. But I am keeping a fairly close eye on this as well. 3 Days of Gettysburg, developer Joe Caparula and designer Dick Whitaker. At long last, 3 Days of Gettysburg Deluxe Edition is in its final stages and headed for what is hopefully a December print slot. Final development and art design from the estimable Charlie Kibler are all but complete. This has been the result of a nearly 2-year incubation and dozens of playtest sessions by our crack Iron Brigade of testers. The final product will truly be deluxe in every sense of the word, with no less than 5 booklets, series rules, battle rules, scenario rules, simple GBACW rules, and the simple version battle book. So 4 full-size maps, 2 double-sided mini-maps, 8 sheets of counters, that's a lot, and 14 displays and player aids. So the largest GBACW release to date, 15 scenarios. I think that's about 14 more than the last edition had. I'm exaggerating only slightly. Ranging in scope from small-scale clashes like Culp's Hill to several versions of the full battle and everything in between, which will provide countless hours of Gettysburg action and entertainment. Presently, 3 Dog Deluxe is with GMT and Jason Card's eagle-eyed production team. After what are hopefully minor corrections and updates, Dick will anticipate production preparation to soon follow. So sweet. All right, here is Alan Ray, who is the developer / co-designer / I'm not sure how the credits are going to work on this particular package because it's going to get complicated. They wrapped up the proofreading process for Thunderbolt Deluxe. 5 rule books, over 250 pages, updated and being prepped for the printers. In addition to the rule books, there are 13 player aids and 16 displays, many of which are back printed that are now ready for the printers. Map and counter artists are putting the final touches on these components. So that is awesome. I can't wait to see that. Thunderverse Track Pack is already in art. So that ought to be coming fairly soon. Here is the Time of Crisis Deluxe Edition. Kai and Jason say that it's ready to print in early 2026. New improvements include the port, market, monument, and temple are with the artist. I don't know what that means. I have played this, but it's been like 5 years, and it did not sing to me at the time, despite it being a topic that I ought to be interested in. Could have had it just as much to do with me as it did the game. So it only has 1 strike. Okay, cool. I will have to watch this. Very good. I've been watching other video at the moment. Maybe I'll talk about that when we're done here. All right, Triumvir. Boy, they're keeping Marco Portray busy, aren't they? So I started work on this, reviewing the rulebook and other components. Okay, yeah, happy to. This is a Jeff Engelstein, Mark Herman collaboration. I liked the last one. So I am keeping a close eye on this as well. Probably struggles South Asian monsoon. Co-designer Jason Carr. One sticky problem is Ananda is not directly involved in the design, but he has a massive amount of tried struggle experience in him. So they had a conversation with Ananda. Okay. All right, so they're still fiddling with some mechanics on that, but it still sounds interesting. Zhizhka, Reform and Crusade in Hussite Bohemia, 1420 to 1421. This is the next, or one of the next Levian campaign games. Definitely interested in this. Significant progress, streamlining and balancing the game. So they're still in the design process at this point. All right, that was the last one. This is the, if I didn't pull this up, thank you, Andrew Cook, for mentioning this. Don't see anything else that I absolutely have to say on any of that. So we will call our review of the GMT update completed for this week. And I think it will be time to hear from our good friends at Noble Knight Games, the official sponsors of the Counterclipping show. Remember, folks, the sale's still on as of when I checked, 45 minutes ago. And you can use the affiliate link. And if you do, then I will get a little bit of store credit as a kickback. And it is much appreciated and is helping me bring incoming games in, including a large package. I will get to the spot in a second. That is intended to be given away on show 250, which is currently scheduled, assuming I don't get hit by a bus, for December 15th. So we have the 250th Counterclipping show coming. And we have at least 3 giveaways well, let me put it this way. At present, I plan 3 giveaway items. 2 of those are RPG items. 1 of those is a war game. And I believe that none of the 3 winners will be unhappy. Let me put it that way. It is, well, that's all I want to say about it at this point. But there's a big giveaway coming up on show 250. So stay tuned for that. And big thanks to Noble Knight for having a sale so I could get it at a discount. So let's hear from our good friends at Noble Knight Games.
Here at Noble Knight Games, we've been carefully growing the world's largest selection of board games, role-playing games and dice, war games, miniatures and paints, card games, and more. Going on 25 years now. Our rustic castle contains more game and hobby goodness than you can shake a stick at. Complete with careful packaging and the finest customer service the land can provide. You can buy, sell, trade from anywhere in the world, just like nature intended. Noble Knight Games.
All right. Thanks, Noble Knight. Once again, check out the links in the video description to help support the channel and the show. All right. So our topic tonight, I guess that was a pretty clean segue. Our topic tonight is house rules. And I want to talk about, and in fact, ask folks how they approach house rules. Do they avoid them? Do they, for example, only choose from amongst the official optional rules? And if you have felt it necessary to introduce house rules, why? Is it because some specific mechanic is busted? Or is it like some house rules can be just like a table decorum thing where if you're rolling your dice in the tray and they bounce out, you re-roll all the dice, for example, so that you can have house rules on stuff like that. I also have not received any octopi in my Noble Knight orders, so there's that. But nevertheless, I was actually going to show off the blank box that came from Noble Knight, and it occurred to me that folks might recognize it. So I did not do that. But nevertheless, just a couple of weeks away at this point. So, all right. So John C. says they have not had to use house rules. So cool. Now, of course, I'm not talking about making rules mistakes, right? I'm talking about people that is it still a house rule if you get it directly from the designer? I mean, if it's Not in the rules. Yeah. If the designer thought you should play with that, maybe they should have put it in the rules. I will point out that Beyond the Rhine has exactly that feature, where the designer came along later and said, you really should make these changes, and the game will work better. And I haven't played it with the changes yet. So from Mitch Land says that the game is yours. It's your house. No rules, police are stopping by to prevent you. Knock yourself out. I'm in complete agreement with this, of course. You have purchased the game, presumably. And if you have purchased the game, I don't care what you do with it. You can do whatever you want with it. You can create paper mache out of it, I guess. I think, personally, that'd be a waste of a good war game, but and Stonewall says you should feel lucky to be playing at the designer's house. Dustin Mitchell hasn't played enough games or of those games to have a good enough feel on house rules. Some lifestyle games lend themselves better to house rules. I think that's an interesting point. There is, I think, a tendency for people playing what we'll call lifestyle games to have house rules for a couple of different reasons. One, they are probably super duper familiar with the game that they play all the time. And also, they may well have found weird strategies and rules exploits and things like that other folks may or may not have actually found. I'm not sure why. Well, I know why I have World in Flames in my head, because I'm going to play World in Flames pretty soon. And I'm excited about that. But I mean, certainly there are some house rules that I would think about using for World in Flames, for example. Access now, these guys love their house rules. Yeah, again, they're playing it constantly. Why not? When does errata become a house rule? Well, errata ideally anyway, should fix the problem. Sometimes it doesn't. So explaining a situation where they found a way to break a game, the designer recommended a new rule that fixes the break and actually makes other parts of the game better. So that's cool. Put that in the next edition. Mark Hodgkinson, most use house rules, OCS, and Library Napoleonic Battles. So we don't use, I mean, we have kind of like a house vibe, I guess, for OCS. In that there are certain things that we kind of gloss over for the rules because we don't feel like they make a difference. But other than, and there's one or two of the official optional rules that we use, like the I forget exactly what the rule is called, proportional losses or something like that. We use that. So all right. So, boy, there's a lot of comments here now. No money for free parking. I mean, this does kind of extend the game of Monopoly by many hours. Must use a coaster. Yeah, see, this is one of those table etiquette things, right? Yes, you must use a coaster, and do not put your beverage onto my gaming table. There are side tables for that kind of thing. That's not necessarily as easy to arrange if you're at a convention, but figure it out. I typically, if I'm drinking a cup of coffee at the wargaming table, which is a common sight, I will typically place the coffee on the floor, in the sense that if it spills, oh no, there's coffee on the floor. If it spills on the game table, then there's a potentially catastrophic and very expensive map replacement coming up, and nobody wants to deal with that. So I'd rather have my drink spilled, especially since our hotel has free coffee. So. All right. I don't think there was a question about there being a problem with house rules. Like Mitch said, it's your game now. You do what you want with it. Brant proposed a pair of house rules in 1 Hour World War II, try and get it closer to recreate the history in the early war. Okay. Lee Grant, the only game they have house rules for is Charioteer, which is interesting. Drew had their own version of Battletech back home. Danny Seckery has house rules that certain players can't play certain countries in certain games. That's actually an interesting subcategory here too. I don't know that I have ever had to deal with anybody trying to take that stance. But I have heard of it happening enough that I find that unsurprising. Adam Misnick says house rules are usually for when the game you bought was not the game you wanted. You should try the game as designed first. I do agree with this. I think you before monkeying with the game's systems, you should thoroughly understand those systems, which means in the context of war games, playing with the rules as written as best you can until you are fully familiar with them. And then maybe you start making changes. Tim Zales only uses house rules with dedicated solo games like DVG Warfighter or the Leader games. This makes sense. I mean, not using house rules potentially gets you out of an argument with an actual human opponent. Celis, this is, of course, that bulge game from Legion War Games, I think, or was it Revolution? I'm not sure. I've seen the game. Now, the number of activation chits you get depends on the turn. Standard rules let the U.S. get a lot of them at the end of the turn. House rule to add blank German chits to make it unpredictable. I think, frankly, that something like the last Blitzkrieg, you might see that too. Although, when we called our last Blitzkrieg game, I think it was like December 28th or something like that, and we didn't really feel like that was creating an enormous problem. Doug, thanks for stopping by. Doug does indeed have some house rules for WIF, and we will be arguing about those rules tomorrow. Not arguing very hard, though, because we are actually in agreement in like 98% of cases. In terms of the official options, which there's obviously a lot of. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this. I'm not a fan, because then you'll have like a 6, and you'll roll the other die in a dice tower, and it'll knock the 6 off, and you'll be just re-roll them all. No more arguments. Also, build your dice tower so that the dice tend not to bounce out of them. I've been fairly good about that. That closed cell foam is bad for that, though. Woo! No metal dice on the too expensive Amish gaming table. I can completely sympathize with this. I wouldn't even want metal dice on my Plexi, to be honest, which has enough friggin' scratches in it already. I do think that Drew thinks that the internet has killed a lot of these sorts of things. Harder for the group bully to change things to their view. I'll tell you what. I mean, I didn't really. I can't remember. Again, OCS, we have kind of a way of playing, but that's not really house rules. We're using a couple of the official options, and that's it. But other than that, I haven't really felt the need to play with house rules in recent years either. I feel like OCS and maybe GCACW are probably the things that I've played the most of and might feel the most inclined to tinker based on, being relatively fluent with the game. And in both cases, I don't really feel the need to do that. And again, if you bought the game, you do what you want with it. But I don't think there's a ton of sense in trying to make the game that you bought into a completely different game. Maybe you should go find a different game if you hate it that bad. All right. John C., when playing Sword of Rome, Carthage and Greece cannot ally with each other. I've not actually played Sword of Rome, so I can't speak to that, but that I wouldn't be surprised if that creates issues. Professor Albion first played OCS some 25 years ago and thought some of the procedures like surprise and logistics rules were a bit much and cumbersome. Yes, I will. Well, the logistics, not so much, although once you are used to handling all the chit management in OCS, once you're used to the supply system, it's pretty basic chit management. It's not that onerous, in my opinion. That doesn't mean everyone has to agree with me. But surprise was like, yeah, this looks really strange, and it doesn't matter, it works. So that's because Dean was a genius. All right, so John C. clarifies that Celis is Revolution Games. Fire Muss says that the folks should play the written rules first. I agree with that, but not because I feel that one must give the designer a fair shake. I mean, that's great, but again, it's your game now. You play it how you want. It's just that I want to trust the designer and trust that the designer knows what they are doing, and in order to get to the full understanding of what they are doing, then I need to be playing with the rules that they put in the rule book. So no. I'm just kidding, Doug. I knew what you meant. All right. One player cannot use red dice, which sounds fantastic. All right. So Joe Syverson says change his stacking order to make games he's soloing less tedious. I have been known to, and this is a little bit of a bad habit for games that aren't OCS, where you're not supposed to be inspecting the other player's stacks. So I mean, I hide everything that's important at all. If it's not like an infantry division or something obvious, then it's probably buried under something else. Unless, I mean, it depends. Obviously, sometimes you can't because there's nothing to put it under. But I tend to hide important stuff in OCS. So my stacking order is all over the place. In a lot of other cases, I will have a tendency to put things like headquarters on the tops of the stacks, or airplanes. But that could be a holdover from OCS because that's how you do it there. All right, Brent, thanks for stopping by. Okay, so Perfidious Albion says he felt that the CRT from ASL was simply not bloody enough. I'm not sure that I agree with that. I'm not sure that I think I kind of feel like I understand what you mean, in the sense that most of the quote unquote hits that you will end up doing in ASL when you fire will be basically morale hits, right? Where you have to check morale. It's something like a penalty. So I can kind of see this, but I nevertheless would be very reluctant to monkey with the guts of ASL in particular. John Madison is here. Damn it! It's all this talking and drinking. All right. Drew says that a Wednesday night group, which is the group I'm not in anymore, seems to lean historical weather. And I don't, and he bets that some groups, I think, are always roll and other groups are always historical. I do think, I mean, to some extent, I think there's a game dependent thing on there. In normal circumstances, I will not mind playing with the historical weather, but I can see in some games that would be odd, in the sense that you'd be, it's a Normandy game and I know the big storm is going to hit on whenever. And there was a big storm that blew up one of the mulberries. So we will make plans based on when I know the weather is going to turn bad. I think that's lame. There's sort of a hybrid approach where you have a set weather for the beginning of a game and then you start rolling. I don't have a real strong position either way, but if it's OCS doesn't give you the historical weather. So Kingdom of Heaven is MMP's game on the Crusades, card driven, point to point. It looks pretty good. I haven't actually played it yet. It runs for a large pile of cabbage nowadays for some reason. Well, I'm glad I got it. So, all right. Many house rules here by M. Fire Muse are to tamp down games where the dice have too much sway over the result, like 4 activations in a row for one side. So, I mean, we have certainly observed such things occurring in, say, great campaigns of the American Civil War. The Kingdom of Heaven is a book, is a game. Kingdom of Heaven is also a movie that you shouldn't watch the theatrical release of. So... here's a good strategy. If he Perigee, if he sucks at a game, he pretends he doesn't own it. That's a pretty good idea. Robert Phillips says that many in the miniatures gaming hobby are very resistant to house rules because they also play in tournaments or public games and they want to play the same as everyone else. This makes sense to me, but I will also, just as an observation, say that the miniatures people have their pick of game systems too. So you will not necessarily need to agree with your opponent in Ancients on house rules as you will agree with your opponent on which miniatures rules for Ancients you are using for that particular battle. So I think that is a factor too. But if you're like in large scale events, then I mean that makes complete sense as well. This is true. In fact, a lot of casualties in ASL happen this way. Mike Berticelli says that Kingdom of Heaven is a very good game. One of these days, I'm going to play it and prove you right. All right. Oh yeah. I mean, no, and I will specific. Did you guys have this happen? Because I know they played it recently. I have seen this kind of thing happen where the Allies in, say, Normandy 44, if you get like a real bad run of bad weather in that game early on, it's bad news for the Allies. Bad news for the Allies. On the plus side, I think the Allies are generally weighted to win that game anyway, just because of the game that it is, or at least they will feel like they have won at the end, probably even if they don't win on points. I agree with this too. Timekeeper says it's not just that the mechanisms work correctly, but that it takes time to understand the designer's philosophy and the historical point they're making, and that's a big part of why he plays games. And I agree with that. That's why one of the first things I tend to do when opening up a new wargame rulebook for the first time is read the designer's notes. Because then you will get a sense of why the designer, I mean, if they're good designer's notes anyway, you'll get a sense of why the designer made the decisions that they did and what challenges that they faced that resulted in those decisions. And A, that's interesting. And B, it may give you more appreciation for the way that the game actually works. For example, I mean, I found that was the case for me in Last Chance for Victory, where it's like, oh, this is kind of strictly, I didn't say scripted, but this is really kind of programmed a bit in the first couple of the first whole day. And then you read the designer's notes and you see Dean's reasons why that it's like that. And you're like, okay. I mean, I do kind of agree with that. Same thing applies to although I didn't get caught in this one, U.S. Civil War. It's like, oh, well, this is a cool game, but, I really miss the leaders that can get killed and all that stuff. And that does add a lot to the games that have it. But you read the designer's notes for U.S. Civil War, and Mark will tell you why that's not in there. And I can't say I think his reasoning is faulty. We do, after all, already have the classic victory game Civil War. You can just go play that, and soon you will be able to play a new version of it from Revolution Games, which, anytime I will be happy to pick that up. So, all right. Perigy's playing Kingdom of Heaven this Saturday. Excellent. Looking forward to it, but need to read the rule book. It's like buying a novel and rewriting a chapter you don't like. Well, I mean, you did buy the book. You can do what you want with it. And I do think that the goals are different here, right? You are, on the one hand, in the case of a book, you are. I mean, I think the logic can apply both ways, to be honest. But again, if this is really what you want to do, and it's going to make it more fun for you, then okay. But I do think that you should know the changes that you should fully comprehend the changes you are making and the effects of those changes on the rest of the game's mechanics before monkeying with them in terms of house rules. Official optional rules are a little different because presumably some thought has already gone into that. All right. Robert Phillips says he calls it a table rule. If it's a rule like, re-roll the dice or don't set your goddamn coffee on my map. If it doesn't involve a change to actual rules, and a house rule if it involves the rules. Makes sense to me. Gravitas Albion, after playing Starfleet battles since the 1970s, he felt that the ship weapon systems were too generic and adapted FOSSA Starship Tactical Fire and Damage in Starfleet battles. Far better experience. That is almost a redesign, you know. So Mo from Mo's Game Table is here. Mo, thanks for stopping by. So on the one hand, this is a great question from John Madison, who asks, what do you think it says about games which tend to be house ruled more than others? Now, I think that my first knee-jerk reaction is to say, well, there's probably a rule or two that doesn't work the way everybody thinks it's supposed to. But thinking about it, maybe that's not what's going on. Maybe it's that the games that get the house rules are games that people play regularly, games that they have developed house rules for because they have played it enough to have identified something that they prefer would work differently. It doesn't have to be something that's broken necessarily. It just, they think it ought to work differently, and they have kind of tinkered with it and gotten it to work, and that's cool. So I think there's a couple different ways to look at that. I don't think one can necessarily draw a really firm conclusion that a game is broken because some given group or multiple groups even happen to be playing it with house rules. I will say that I see a lot more house rules in role-playing games, where a lot of people will role-playing games with house rules. But I see a lot less of it in wargaming personally. Empire Moose says, for a game like Panzer, where you can pick and choose which advanced and or optional rules you want, I think it's a bit like every game runs on your own set of house rules. So I think in the case of Panzer, I think you can actually add the advanced rules individually, and I think the game is designed that way. For many games, it's like, here's the basic game, here's the advanced game. The advanced game uses everything in the basic game, but has a bunch of other stuff too. Or, on the other hand, we have something like World in Flames, where you have 60 official optional rules, many of which are in fact bundles of different optional rules, any or all of which you can incorporate into any given game. And in the case of a game like World in Flames, I very much feel that it feels like you are customizing that experience to your tastes based on your selection of optional rules. I'm sure I could probably think of other games that have like this extensive library of optional rules like that too. House rules for Rollmaster. Oh my God, we house ruled the pants off of that. I don't think we ever at any point used any initiative system that Iron Crown ever put in a book for any game. So Moses' house rules can be great, especially when playing solo. It's a great exercise in messing around with development. This is true too. A good first step into helping develop a game in design in the future. I think the World in Flames PC version, which I think I have sitting around somewhere, not sure I'll be able to run it on Linux, but I'm not sure that I'm not. Lets you pick and choose the supplemental rules, but I think it's based on the final edition rules, I think, which means I don't want at this point to confuse myself by dipping into any World in Flames activity that is based on any of the previous editions. So when we played back in the 90s, I played 4th, 5th, and final edition. Now, after final, there were at least 2 different editions before the collector's edition. So that means that there's like, last time I played World in Flames was like 4 or 5 editions ago. So I need to, I'm sticking strictly to the current collector's edition rulebook, downloaded freshly from the ADG website in this particular case. Stonewall asks, how many of the different Labatt rules are based on house rules and the internet dispersing them to the wind? Good question. I'm not sure. I can tell you that I personally have the at least 3 different Labatt rule sets that came in Labatt games. So to some extent, this might be true, but I will also point out that one of the things that you can do with the regs, the complicated rule set, is kind of add it piecemeal to Marie Louise, which is the stripped down version of the regs. So to some extent, the situation in La Bataille is more analogous to here's the rules and here's this enormous library of options that you can use if you want. When we played Mont Saint Jean at Buckeye Game Fest a few years ago, we played with a couple of the optional rules. Bouncing cannonballs. One of our guys insisted on playing with bouncing cannonballs. I'm not sure that came up. All right, William Aarons, Army Group Center and Army Group North. Easy to put one map sheet from each to make a scenario for Veliky Luki. That's a good idea. I will express some level of minor annoyance, and not that this is anybody's fault but mine, because I built the damn thing, that neither of the full campaigns thus far released in the revised editions of the East Front series actually fit on my table. In the case of Army Group North, I think it's that, or is it? No, actually, it's Army Group Center. It has that map W that sticks off the top. That prevents it from working. I have some engineering things that I'd like to try that will help me deal with that kind of thing, but those things are not happening this week or month. So this is 100% true. The later, I don't know about in general, but I can definitely confirm that the deluxe edition, the 5th edition from GMT, has explicitly this in it, a huge array of different optional rules that came from a variety of different places over the years too. So, all right, at this point, we've got most of this game punched and clipped and organized. Okay. For Army Group North, fold the bottom half of map C underneath. Interesting. Okay. I may have a look at that. I may have a look at that, since it very much I would like to play those things, although they have been deprioritized since, this whiff thing has come up, and that's going to more or less consume my wargaming attention for at least the next 2 months. So, and you know what? I'm okay with that, by the way. All right, so William Aarons points out that one problem in joining the Army Group games is the hexes on the overlapping maps I and W use different numbers for the hexes. I will say that I didn't know that I knew that, because I've never even attempted to do this. The games in the series generally do tell you what order to lay the maps down in, and that may help address that problem, but I'm not positive that it would, to tell you which map is supposed to be on top, and therefore the map with the valid hex numbers. This is, by the way, Stephen Rochelle, is a technique that the guys at Winterfest tend to use when they're playing the enormous OCS games, because they know that, hey, back here we're not really going to get to that part, so we will fold that underneath so that we can actually reach the middle of the table. Very useful. All right, folks, I think that we are going to wrap the show up tonight, because I would like to reboot a computer, among other things. So, big shout out to the patrons of Ardwulf there. Thank you so much for helping this runaway train keep running away. And to our good friends at Noble Knight Games. Thanks to everybody who stopped out this evening. Hopefully we had a good time. We are going to wrap this bad boy up right now. And hopefully, like I said, you will see a video from me tomorrow. If not tomorrow, it'll be, well, it might actually be on Thursday. Should I release a video, a wargaming video on Thanksgiving? I mean, I obviously will not edit it on Thanksgiving. So if anybody has an opinion on that, let me know. Otherwise, it's going to go up tomorrow or Wednesday. So everybody have a great rest of the night. We'll see you all again soon.